I'm Brandi Kruse. Today on Undivided, we discuss our public records lawsuit against the city of Seattle. Plus, are some taking the fight to protect women's sports too far? And Seattle City Councilwoman Kshama Sawant confronted in epic fashion about her absentee leadership.
And that daycare owner says she thinks it is the city's responsibility to protect those children with more police.
That and more coming up today on Undivided. Support the show for just $5 at undividedpod.com. Welcome to Undivided. Thank you for being here. I'm Brandi Kruse. Thank you for your commitment to giving common sense a comeback. A lot to get to. I want to start the show by addressing some news we broke over the weekend. As you know, I was out in Miami helping out my sister, who's much better, by the way, and back home, which is great news. And we broke the news over the weekend that we have filed a lawsuit against the city of Seattle. If you watch the show routinely, you will know the backstory, but let me just catch people up who might not be familiar. Our lawsuit centers around public records related to a controversial vote by Seattle City Councilman Andrew Lewis. There was a common sense proposal back in June that was before the city council that would have allowed Seattle police officers to start arresting people for using drugs out in the open, which has been such a significant problem in the city. And at the very last minute, after telling anyone who would listen that he was going to support this bill, Andrew Lewis cast the deciding no vote.
I came out here on the dais today fully prepared to vote for this measure because I do think it is generally proper that we reconcile our SMC to the state law. But with the ending of community court without any additional process, I just can't do it today. I just can't.
So after that vote, I thought, well, this is just political cowardice. A bunch of activists showed up in the room and yelled at him, so he changed his vote at the last minute. But I wanted to be sure that there weren't any sort of improper outside influences that made him change his mind. Because, he has been all over the place when he's tried to explain why he switched his vote literally at the last minute. So we had filed a public records request at the end of June, as you know, and it was very narrow in scope. It sought text messages and phone calls to and from Andrew Lewis's city-issued cell phone and emails from just a 10-hour period of time on the day of the vote, before and after the vote, because we wanted to see who's communicating with him. And I don't know if there's any there. That's the point of public records requests, though, is to try to find out if there's any there. We were told initially that our first installment of those records would be available at the end of August, just after the primary election, which Andrew Lewis was on the ballot because he's maybe going to keep his job this year. Voters get to decide. We got some records from them. They weren't very significant records. And then they told us the next installment, presumably the installment with the information that we're looking for, would be available just days after the general election in November. I don't believe in coincidences. And so we have teamed up with the Citizen Action Defense Fund. They have been kind enough to pursue this case for us and file over the weekend a public records lawsuit against the city of Seattle. The Citizen Action Defense Fund said in a statement of this case, this is not the first time Seattle violated public records law to protect a city official from scrutiny. We intend to hold the city accountable for its political gamesmanship. Here's the bottom line. I simply want the records. And I think the people of Seattle deserve to know before the November election whether there was any influence on the councilman for downtown that changed his mind at the last minute. As I said, I don't know what we're going to find. I don't know if we're going to find anything of consequence other than, a bunch of people just telling Andrew Lewis how they feel about it. I am not hopeful at this point that we're going to get those records before the November election, especially now that this is the subject of a lawsuit, but we couldn't sit back and just let this happen. We weren't going to sit back and just say, oh, well, I guess it's just a coincidence that the first installment of records we got was after the primary, and the second installment of records is scheduled to come to us 3 days after the general election. I've been doing this job long enough to know that coincidences like that don't really happen. And I have done countless public records requests in my career as a journalist in the city of Seattle for 15 years. And I have had requests that are much more broad in scope get responded to much, much more quickly. So this doesn't smell right. And so, again, thank you to the Citizen Action Defense Fund for stepping up, for filing this lawsuit on our behalf, and we will certainly keep you guys up to date as to what happens. All right. As you know, we've talked a lot about the issue of transgender athletes at all levels. I mean, collegiate, high school athletes, and about this issue, which I think is really common sense, that biological men are built different. And I don't believe that it's controversial to say that biological men should not be competing against biological women in sports. It is the erasure of women. I mean, we see, transgender women, so biological men, making all these lists of, the world's most beautiful women and the world's most successful women and the most successful female entrepreneurs, the women of the year being a biological man. And it's like, didn't women fight for a long time for recognition and to be able to do these things? And now you have biological men who are taking their spots in these positions. It's super odd. So anyway, a Seattle high school at Seattle Academy is now at the center of national intrigue over a transgender athlete who has been, and this has kind of been out there, talked about on and off, but this was something shared by Riley Gaines. And so it's taken on this new level of scrutiny because Riley Gaines is a former collegiate swimmer who has been an outspoken opponent to biological men competing against biological women. So Riley Gaines shared the story of this track athlete at Seattle Academy who's a biological boy, identifies as a female, and is now competing in track against young biological women. This is the tweet from Riley Gaines. Male runner from Seattle Academy competed with the women, and because of his performance, his team finished first. He held up the team trophy and started kissing it. He acted like it was solely his, forgetting to share it with the girls. She called it revolting. She went on to write, girls were warned not to say anything or act up on the podium or else they would be suspended, ruining their chances of going to state. Parents were warned not to wear political shirts. A coach got suspended for yelling, fair sports for girls. Congrats to the rightful championship team, the Kings. So in this tweet, Riley Gaines sent out images from this particular meet, and the images show the face of this young athlete, and we blurred them out, and I'll talk about why just momentarily. And so obviously this got a lot of attention, and now there's a lot of heat on this particular school. We are reaching out to Seattle Academy to get them to respond to a couple things. Is it true that female athletes were told, you can't speak out against this, you can't protest this, you can't be upset about this? Is it true that parents were told, if you wear, t-shirts protesting against this, signs, if you shout anything out, that you could get in trouble, it could ruin your kid's chances of going to state? Because then you're basically saying you are not allowed to disagree with our decision to let a biological boy compete against your girls. You're not allowed to publicly display that you're not happy with that. And that's just not right. Because I think there's a lot of common sense reasons why parents should be able to question this, to push back against this. And yeah, biological girls who've spent their career trying to succeed in academics, but also in athletics, they should be able to say, hey, I have an issue with this. I don't think it's fair that I have to compete in whatever running event it is against a biological boy. But, and Nicole, can you bring up the tweet again from Riley Gaines? I will say, and as we wait for some of this, we have some parents who might be willing to talk about it. I know I'm working through some back channels to hear from some parents or to hear what happened to a coach who allegedly, according to Riley Gaines, got suspended for yelling fair sports for girls. And so we're going to have a follow-up to this story tomorrow after we reach out to Seattle Academy. But there's just one thing I think that struck me about the Riley Gaines tweet that I wanted to talk about on the show today, and that is that here you have this very high-profile figure in this fight and in this movement, and she sent out these images of this biological boy, of this transgender athlete who is a minor. And I gotta say, it didn't strike me as right. And it struck me as sort of detrimental to this common sense movement because I feel like it is, first of all, it's a minor, right? Second, I think it is going to make that minor child a target for vitriol because of the emotions at play in this. And I also think it's unnecessary. This kid, regardless of whether you agree with what he's chosen to do, both with his life and his body, but also in competing against his female classmates, is playing by the rules. I mean, to me, it's like, be mad at the rules, be mad at the school, be mad at the system that allows for this. Don't be mad at a kid. I mean, people who are opposed to this often say that this is someone who might be confused or who's going through a difficult time in their lives. I don't think anyone would regret this. So how does it help to take someone, Nicole, can you check how many followers Riley Gaines has on Twitter? It's got to be significant. I don't know how it helps the movement. I don't know how it helps debate and helps the cause to blast out images of a minor child because you either don't agree with them being transgender or you don't agree with them competing in accordance with the rules against biological women. So did you see?
Yeah, 806,000.
Yeah, I disagree with the notion that in order to make a point about this, in order to bring attention to it, that you need to blast out this minor child's face to 800,000 of your followers, especially when a lot of those followers are because of the fact that you speak out about these issues. I mean, that's how people know who Riley Gaines is. So coming up later, we posted a subscriber poll before the show today about whether you think that this is an appropriate tactic or not. Is it appropriate to show the face of, especially when you're a high-profile media figure, of this young student? And should you be mad at the student or should you be mad at the system? But certainly we are going to do some follow-up on this. We know this got a lot of attention on social media over the weekend. It is a local story. And so we certainly, if students, if parents were told that you can't object to this at all, or your kid might not be able to go to state, might not be able to participate in this in-state, that's like a threat. And that's completely unreasonable. And it's shutting down legitimate conversation about this issue. And so I just don't agree with that at all if that's the case. And so we look forward to hearing what Seattle Academy might have to say on this issue. And we will read the subscriber poll coming up later in comments and what some of you had to say about this, because you are very varied, for lack of a better phrase, on what you think about Riley Gaines showing a bunch of pictures of this kid. All right, before we move on, I've been talking about Eastside Weight Loss Clinic, and I have an update on our friends Ben and Leslie. We have two dedicated viewers to the show, Ben and Leslie, who signed up for Eastside Weight Loss Clinic. It's been probably 8 or 9 months now, and they're just out there living their best life, Nicole. I love Ben because he sends us frequent updates, and they're just great because
they are.
They lost, we took this picture together where combined we'd lost 101 pounds, and he sent us an update and some pictures of them at a rock and roll 5K, 10K in San Jose. He said, we've been holding steady in our program from Eastside Weight Loss Clinic. While you can indulge occasionally, the program allows you to quickly get back on track, a framework for success, even during life's ups and downs and yearly events. He said, being lighter on our feet and a bit more pep in our step, we went to San Jose in October and ran the rock and roll 5K, 10K. It was a blast and much more attainable and fun because of the Eastside Weight Loss Clinic program. Eastside Weight Loss program opens up a wide range of life's simple pleasures to enjoy and participate in. Outdoor activities, walking the dog, or playing with your family and kids just feels better. I love to hear that, and that's so true. I mean, for them to be out there and like running marathons and doing all this and enjoying their best life, I'm happy for you guys. And I think it's a great success story for Eastside Weight Loss Clinic. So if you're interested, as he said, just because the holiday season is coming up, you can still maintain the program and lose weight. I started the Eastside Weight Loss Clinic program November 1st of last year, and I lost almost 30 pounds by the end of the year, and I still enjoyed the holidays. So eastsideweightlossclinic.com. eastsideweightlossclinic.com. Schedule a free 15-minute consultation with Dr. Ryan Coogan and his team. And hey, you might be running some marathons. I haven't run any marathons. Like, look, I wanted to lose weight, but running sounds terrible to me. All right, Nicole and I are going to be taking a little test on the show today, live, and it is going to determine our power privilege score. Let's get to it in our segment, Unbelievable. As you know, we're pretty clued in to what's happening in our schools, thanks to you. Nicole is pretty clued in to what's happening in some school districts because of her family and friends, including the Blaine School District. And you were alerted to a worksheet that was allegedly handed out, according to multiple parents at the Blaine School District, to their students.
Right, to at least a couple classes, maybe the leadership class, maybe ASB. It was a couple classes at least.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So before you and I take this, fill out this worksheet live on the air, let's just show it to folks.
Okay. Yep,
it's called the Power Privilege Checklist. It says this exercise is to help you learn about those areas of your life in which you have privilege and those areas in which you do not. Please look at the descriptions in each column. Check off each column the description that applies to you. When you're finished, give yourself 1 point for each item checked off in the column marked norm and 1 point for each item checked off in the column marked other. Oh, and this will give you subtract one from the other, give you your power privilege score. So first, why are we talking about something unbelievable? Because it's absolutely ridiculous that you're putting kids in school where they should be learning through a checklist, and you're going to see how dumb the checklist is, to determine whether they're privileged, whether they have power over their fellow students. Again, it's just setting up students to inherently feel like they're victims, or to feel like they're a bad person if they're white, or if their parents are wealthy, etc. Why are you doing this to kids? It's genuinely freaking strange. And Blaine, I thought you guys were pretty normal up there. Am I wrong to think? I know it's like pretty close to Bellingham. You're not normal. We'll discuss that. Yeah. I'll tell you whether you're normal based on the worksheet. I'm going to post this for you guys after the show today, because you've got to take the power privilege and then report back to me what your power privilege score is. We shouldn't be doing this to kids. Again, we talked about this on the show last week we're creating perpetual victims. And you're going to have a kid who takes this and they're like, wow, I'm less privileged. And my classmates have a higher power privilege score than me. And so the world is just holding me down. And these are characteristics that you can't really change about yourself. So what are you teaching them? That like you're just screwed because of things you were born into that you have no control over? I mean, get your you-know-what together up there in Blaine. And we also did a story a couple months ago about, I think it was in the Seattle School District, teachers being required, new hires in the district being required to rank their white privilege. Stop. Just stop. It's unbelievable. But Nicole, I thought this would be fun. Let's do
it.
Let's take our power privilege score and we'll see between the two of us which one is more privileged. So let's start with the things that would mean we have more privilege, okay? Because I have a couple questions in this. So it says, are you a man? No.
Right, so you check the ones that
are you white?
do apply.
Dang it. Yes, I'm white. Heterosexual, okay. Non-transgender, wealthy. I guess what's the barometer for wealthy?
I'm going Bill Gates. That means wealthy, right?
I don't know. I feel like wealthy in context of the general population.
Disposable income, I guess?
Yeah, I'm going to check it just because, I'm okay. I can cover my bills if that's okay.
Adult.
It says, are you society's definition of sane?
What is society's definition of sane?
I don't know because I have some ups and downs.
Yeah.
I'm going to check it just because okay.
Temporarily able-bodied.
It says, are you society's definition of attractive? Nicole?
I would consider you society's definition of attractive.
Thank you.
Take that as a compliment.
Because if you don't, you're fired. All right, let's see here. Am I average size?
Are you
yes,
emotionally...
thanks to Eastside Weight Loss Clinic.
Emotionally stable? Depends on the day.
Yeah, depends on the day. Do I have 2 heterosexual parents per family? My dad's dead, okay? So I feel like I'm now triggered. Yeah, I had 2 heterosexual parents. I'm gonna check yes, okay? Healthy, yes, okay.
Landowners.
All right, I got that all taken care of. Let me just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, so I got 20 in the norm category. Yeah.
You did well.
All right, so less privileged. Are you a woman? Yes, I am. Thank you for asking. Let's see. Okay, oh my gosh. Those with beliefs other than Christian. I believe in ancient alien theory, so I would check that, correct?
There you go, yes.
Oh my gosh,
alien theory, okay.
Self-educated, differently abled. You have to check that because you have a hearing issue.
I have a hearing issue, so that's
Look at you.
differently able.
Good for you. Okay, great. All right, I only have 2 in the less privileged category. So my power privilege score, 20 minus 2 is 18. I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty privileged according to the Blaine
14. So you're more privileged than me.
Oh, so this is a weird power dynamic.
Yeah, wow.
Is there something I can do to account for my privilege that would make you feel better?
Well, you could ugly yourself up a bit.
Wait, you said that you're society's definition of attractive, right?
Sure. Well,
maybe I don't. Of course you're attractive. You're a total babe.
Thanks, babe.
Just because a man hasn't recognized it enough to ask you on a date.
What's a non-victim?
It says a non-victim means that you're not the victim of a crime, I guess.
I guess. I've been a victim of
Anyway, I'll post this after, and you guys can tell me what your power privilege score. Mine is 18, which I think is pretty high. So I want to apologize for that.
They don't really give you a guide, though. There's no guide saying,
yeah, what does
you have
18
high,
mean?
15 to 20, you are low, 0 to 5.
Because they just want you,
Right.
they want the kids in the Blaine School District just to compare it to their fellow students.
And this
And
was available online. So
Yeah.
I did Google it, find it. It is available for any school to give to their
To
students.
use. It says it's adapted from National Centers of Excellence in Women's Health Cultural Competence Curriculum, originally from Operation Concern, the Department of Social Work and Education at San Francisco State University.
Right.
There it is. Of course, this is a product of San Francisco State University.
But again, what are you teaching children?
You're
that
teaching
you're a
them
victim. If you have any of
Exactly.
these things, you are not as privileged as you could be.
Yeah, it makes you a victim if you're a blue collar worker and not a white collar worker.
If you're a child or an older person, if you're a kid,
You're a victim.
or,
If you're a kid,
or
you are
old,
a victim.
You're a victim. You
Then
are not.
if you have
as
beliefs other than
privileged.
Christian, you're a victim. If you're from, I'm confused about this one too, because it says if you're North American, you have privilege. If you're from the rest of the world, you're less privileged. I'm half Canadian. So what do I
well,
check?
that's North American.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Oh, so.
Maybe we should adjust your education score.
I'm going to take off the education. Wow. I'm going to edit that out of the show later for sure. Anyway, Blaine, this is stupid. And that's what we've asked the Blaine School District, right? You asked them, I
did.
don't know where your camera went.
I know.
Nicole, come back.
That's weird.
That's the Blaine School District. Like, shut them down, shut them down, shut them down. But you've asked them, what's the point of this exercise?
I did.
And I would genuinely, what is the point of this exercise? What do you want kids to take away? Because all they're going to do is they're going to compare their scores and be like, oh, so I'm more privileged. So what? They need to walk on eggshells around their fellow students. I really don't understand what the point. Stop doing this to kids. Stop doing this to kids. As much fun as we had with this, and I'll post it for you to have fun with it later. Stop freaking doing this to kids. It's weird. And anyone who's responsible for this, they have no place in public education. Absolutely bizarre stuff. All right. We've been talking about our friend Bulwark Capital, or our friend Zach Abraham with Bulwark Capital. We have a great conversation with him on the show every Thursday, turning us into financial geniuses. But also, he seems genuinely worried about the state of the economy, particularly under the control of Bidenomics. And it's an economy built on trillions of dollars that were just printed out of nowhere. And he says it's a house of cards. And so what they specialize in at Bulwark Capital is risk management. And whether you're just starting to plan for retirement or you're in retirement, managing your risk with the current state of the economy is absolutely critical.
We think the world is going insane. We think that the world is propped up on all kinds of, we don't think, we know, propped up printed money. And you're playing a game that has to end badly. Right now, when it ends, when you hear all these prognosticators financially talking about when it ends, it kind of reminds me of when God's coming back. Nobody knows, right? But what it does mean is that you need a portfolio that can do two things. It can keep up with inflation and not get you buried. But also, when the inevitability of living and perpetuating an economy on printed money, when that inevitability comes to the fore, you need a portfolio that can stand up against anything, right?
Yeah, inevitable. It is inevitable. And so don't try to manage your risk too late. Being able to save for retirement, putting your hard-earned money in, and having money you can live off of in retirement is critical. So don't manage your risk too late. Check out Bulwark Capital and our friends Zach Abraham and the rest of his team there. Visit knowyourriskradio.com, knowyourriskradio.com. If you're curious what your risk is, how you can better manage it, reach out to them. All right, the following segment is brought to you in partnership with our friends over at Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org. Kshama Sawant got chased down a hallway, and I'm kind of loving it. Usually I don't like sort of aggressive approaches when it comes to journalists in trying to question elected officials. Usually there are ample opportunities to be able to do that without having to chase them down a hallway, but that is simply not the case with Seattle's Socialist City Councilwoman, who just has a couple months left on the job. Which honestly is a very good thing for the city of Seattle. I mean, I think she's been a toxic figure, and that is not just an opinion from me. I mean, there is even some individuals who are fairly closely aligned with her political who are starting to see that, she has been an absent leader for the people of the 3rd District in the city of Seattle, which is the Capitol Hill area. And there has been some significant crime issues up there. There was just this horrifying in broad daylight assassination attempt where there was a car driving by, guys walking down the sidewalk, someone fires shots at him, and there's a daycare right there. And members of that daycare and staff of the daycare have been speaking out. Where is Councilwoman Sawant? Why isn't she prioritizing public safety issues when we have such severe issues up here? And Gurmai Zahalai, who's a King County councilman, who is a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, even he was up in the councilwoman's district asking what we've all been asking, which is, where is she?
And I'm going to say this right now because I have to say it. It's been on my chest. Okay. Where is the city council representative that represents this district? I have to say it. It's extremely frustrating. There is more to this job than marching against Amazon. There is more to this job. That means you got to be here on the ground, responding to these communities, helping them go through their issues. And I know we have some great candidates right now. We have Joy Hollingsworth here. We have Alex Hudson here. And I'm telling you right now, we need to hold every level of government accountable to responding and being on the ground responding to these issues.
Yeah, and that is someone who is very far to the left. That is a progressive who arguably has a lot in common with Kshama Sawant politically, but he says it, I couldn't say it better, there's more to this job than marching on Amazon. There's more to this job than trying to vilify the big corporations that are vital to our economy. And that's what she's done. She's the longest serving member of the Seattle City Council. She will be at the time of her departure. And she's going to go on and do what she should have been doing all along, which is being part of the National Socialist movement and trying to push that agenda. And I don't know if there's anything that reflects her lack of priorities better than this past week. She held a press conference talking about what's happening between Israel and Palestine. And Palestinians. And I'm thinking, you're a Seattle City Councilwoman. So here she calls this press conference, all these things happening in her district, the crime issues that the city of Seattle is facing. And she calls a press conference to talk about encouraging the U.S. and Democrats to call for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. And thankfully, there are still a few reporters left in the city of Seattle who are willing to call her out for her absenteeism, because I'll just say off the bat, there were only 3 reporters who showed up to this press conference. There was, I think it was Jeff Pogula, who's over at Como News Radio, our friend Jonathan Cho, an independent journalist, and Jeremy Harris at Como. And they didn't show up to the press conference because they cared one bit about what Councilwoman Kshama Sawant has to say about what's happening in Israel. They showed up because they saw it as an opportunity, a rare opportunity, to ask her about some of these critical issues in her district that she seemingly it doesn't even care about. So here they come to this press conference. Again, she's at the press conference talking about Israel, and she's not even interested in answering any off-topic questions. And so Jeremy Harris at Como, this is just about one of the best clips. And I'm very critical of the local media. This is absolutely praiseworthy. So if she's not going to answer their questions about crime and safety during this show and tell on what's happening in Israel, then he sure as heck is going to chase her up the stairs and chase her up to her council office. And she flees while he is asking her incredibly legitimate questions. Check it out.
Police are down 600 officers in the last 3 years. That's what the police claim. And you pushed the defund effort 3 years ago. And that daycare owner says she thinks it is the city's responsibility to protect those children with more police. You pushed to defund the police and reduce the officers.
Yes, and I'm proud of that. I don't take that back. Unlike the Democrats, I don't go back on my word. But the fact of the matter, if facts matter to the media, I don't think they do for you guys. But if they do, then the fact of the matter is that the police did not get defunded. As a matter of, they did not. In fact, there's been more overtime money for police officers. No, don't say it right.
But they're down. They're down 600 officers. That's what the chief says.
They are not.
And the daycare owner wants more police. Would you support putting more police in the central district?
I am in solidarity with all small businesses who want an end to crime. But the facts, statistical evidence show that bloating the police department doesn't work. Look at what's happening.
But we're going to hit record homicides this year. You can say that, but violent crime is up. Homicides are going to hit a record. And you pushed to defund the police 3 years ago. How can you say with a straight face that more police do not equal...
Calling for increased funding for social housing, for programs like LEAD.
These are reasonable questions, council member.
That have actually been proven statistically to reduce crime and violence.
And how's that working out?
Mic drop. Mic drop. And how's that working out? And that is the appropriate response, because we hear that so much. We called out, I believe it was Dow Constantine's office when they announced this new office for gun violence prevention, where they talk about all these proven methods to reduce what's happening. If they're proven, then why aren't they working? If you have proven methods that you're trying to invest in, why haven't they worked? You know, Dow Constantine was saying in his office on gun violence that they've been working with these proven methods for 2 years. It's like, well, where are we now? We're about to reach an all-time high in the city of Seattle for homicides. So absolute kudos to Jeremy Harris at Como. Rare kudos that you will hear from me on the current state of the Seattle media. But I also think that just illustrates, I mean, think about the optics there. You have the longest serving member of the Seattle City Council who just got done holding a press conference on something happening thousands and thousands of miles away that is not at all within the purview of her office and her job. There is an emergency crisis situation playing out on the streets of her district when it comes to crime, so much so that even progressives are saying, hey, where is she? Why doesn't she care about this? And when she's asked questions about it by members of the media, she flees up the stairs, down a corridor, and behind a locked door. If that doesn't speak to the urgency with which the city of Seattle and voters need to move past this brand of politics toward people who are actually willing to talk about the hard issues, to take accountability, to get things done, I don't know a better clip that illustrates it. And not to mention the rampant falsehoods in the little she did say to Jeremy Harris. I mean, you know, talking about, oh, if you want the truth, we didn't defund the police. Well, there was some police defunding. There was some money moved around. And we've said over and over, you don't have to actually cut SPD's budget by 50% to have defunded them. No one wants to work for people who hate them. No one wants to work for council members who have said the things about them that Councilwoman Sawant has said. And I'm sorry, nobody would stay in a job where your bosses are saying that you're going to cut the budget by 50% and you have absolutely, you're trying to raise a family, you're doing a difficult job, and you have absolutely no job stability. Nobody's going to stay there. And that's why, yes, we have lost 600 Seattle police officers. The staffing is critically low. And for her to run away, for her to run away from a reporter who's asking her about that, who's asking her about, hey, this daycare is very concerned. They want more police officers. And she's saying, well, I'm in solidarity with small business owners, which you're not. But I'm in solidarity with small business owners who want, to address crime, but we're not interested in giving them more police. And I'll also say, and someone commented in the live stream, not to let Councilman Gurmai Zaha King County off the hook, and I agree, he has been anti-police. We've had him on the show recently to talk about it. He has supported reallocating police funds. And so, but I think that shows even he, and I think we have to allow for people to come around. We have to allow for people to say, look, maybe I was wrong. Maybe we need to focus more on public safety. Maybe we need to do it in these ways. I'm always going to allow for that because that's the only way you get people back on the course of common sense. I do think it's legitimate that he has been anti-police. He has supported things that I think have made the public safety crisis worse. But even he is saying, hey, Kshama Sawant, where are you? So we're in the midst of a couple weeks now from the November election. I really hope Seattle voters can see this and can realize that, hey, we need to make sure that we move as far away from that brand of politics as possible. And I really think it is going to be incredibly helpful on the second floor of City Hall to have Councilwoman Kshama Sawant move on to do other things. All right, that segment was brought to you in partnership with our friends over at Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org. Okay, dipping outside of Washington State momentarily, Bill Maher. I have really grown to like Bill Maher. I think that he has been such an important counterpoint within his own political party and within sort of some of the woke ideology on the left that he just absolutely demolishes. And I think it means more coming from him than, say, coming from a Republican or coming from a conservative. We've talked a lot about what's happening on college campuses lately, obviously a lot about what's happening on high school campuses as well and in education. Bill Maher says college is useless because it makes you stupid. Let's watch his clip.
As an Ivy League graduate who knows the value of a liberal education, I have one piece of advice for the youth of America. Don't go to college. And if you absolutely have to go, don't go to an elite college, because as recent events have shown, it just makes you stupid. There are few, if any, positives to come out of what happened in Israel, but one of them is opening America's eyes to how higher education has become indoctrination into a stew of bad ideas, among them the simplistic notion that the world is a binary place where everyone is either an oppressor or oppressed. In the case of Israel, oppressors being babies and bubbas. The same students who will tell you that words are violence and silence is violence were very supportive when Hamas terrorists went on a rape and murder rampage worthy of the Vikings. They knew where to point the fingers at the murdered, and then it was off to ethics class. 34 student groups at Harvard signed a letter that said the apartheid regime is the only one to blame, proving they don't know what constitutes apartheid. They don't know much of anything, actually. But it doesn't deter them from having an opinion. They've convinced themselves Israel is the most repressive regime in history because they have no knowledge of history or even a desire to know it. And actual history doesn't come up in their intersectionality of politics and genderqueer identities class. Now, to be fair, at least 5 of the student groups have rescinded what they signed, saying they didn't read the letter closely. And they promised not to make that mistake again after they graduate and start running the world. The fact that college presidents, who usually love to speak out about anything, couldn't find their voice to condemn the worst attacks in the Holocaust says a lot about who really controls colleges and why, if ignorance is a disease, Harvard Yard is the Wuhan wet market.
Love Bill Maher. And he makes so many good points there. He actually showed, when he was talking about what was happening on college campuses, the flyer that was sent out by the student group at the University of Washington depicting a Hamas paraglider paragliding in to rape and murder people, which is insane. He makes a lot of good points about, one, clearly you have students who lack any sort of understanding of history or what's been happening in that part of the Middle East. And then they, go and take these college courses that teach them absolutely nothing about the real world and teach them absolutely nothing that is actually useful. Now, I don't agree with him wholesale that, don't go to college because it makes you stupid. I think parents need to pick their kids' college very carefully and encourage their kids to choose colleges very, very carefully to make sure that they're actually going there when they're spending tens of thousands of dollars a year, that they're actually getting a quality education, that they're actually getting an education that is going to help them out in the real world become gainfully employed. And honestly, parents, if you're covering the cost of your child's education, I think you have every right in the world to say yes or no to the types of courses that they sign up for, like some of these, as you pointed out, which is the name of a real course, this gender queer intersectionality course at a college. And I'll say, there are a lot of things kids don't need to go to college for these days. I regret going to college for the job that I'm doing now. I think there are some majors that are becoming entirely useless, like journalism. And I've actually said that for a long time, that I think about what I learned in journalism college at the University of Nebraska. And I'm not saying I didn't enjoy my time there and I didn't take a lot of other things away from the college experience. But in hindsight, you either are going to be a good journalist or you're not. You're either innately curious and fair and interested in facts and truth, or you're not. A college can't teach you that. I would have much preferred to have gone to college and studied political science or history or something like that I could have applied to a career in journalism. So, yeah, I think it's incumbent on parents to make sure that their kids are looking at colleges where they're actually going to get a quality education, especially if they're going to pay for that education, and certainly for colleges themselves to be their own watchdogs in the types of dumb classes that are popping up that they're offering kids. So I actually think this might be a turning point in college education, because what we saw happen on college campuses across the country when it came to these pro-Hamas protests, and then you had, donors at major colleges and universities pull funds. You had colleges that for the first time experienced actual financial backlash for the type of students that they're putting out, the type of students that they're creating and fostering. And so maybe this will be kind of a come to Jesus moment on college campuses across the country. All right, we're starting a new little feature on the show today, because we do a poll sometimes in the live YouTube chat. And I had subscribers say, Brandi, we pay $5 a month for the show, and we're watching it on Patreon or locals, and we're not taking the poll on YouTube. And you know what? You're right. You're right. And so today we are starting our daily subscriber poll where we hear from undivided subscribers about an issue that we talk about on the show. So earlier this morning, I posted the question on Patreon and Locals about a topic we discussed on the show today. The question, Riley Gaines, a former collegiate swimmer and outspoken opponent to biological men competing in women's sports, took to social media this week to detail the story of a biological boy at Seattle Academy competing against girls in high school track. In her post, Gaines showed pictures of the transgender athlete. Is that appropriate? Right now, overwhelmingly, you guys, subscribers who took the poll said, yes, that's appropriate. 59% said yes. 28% said no. 13% said unsure. A little bit of your feedback. Chris said, of course it's appropriate. Newspapers all over the country have sections for high school sports and don't have any problem with printing photos of those events. If a guy puts on a bra to beat a bunch of girls, show his picture. Now, I think that's a little different. I mean, of course, there are pictures of high school athletes out. I'm not saying it's not appropriate to cover high school athletics, but when you're talking about a post that is calling out an individual student for what you deem as unfair competition, you are opening up that minor child, especially if you're Riley Gaines and have 800,000 followers, you're opening up that kid to vitriol when I would argue they're playing within the system. So you can, I would say it's much more productive to push back against the system as opposed to an individual person. And I guess I don't know what's gained by showing their face versus not showing their face. How does that change truly the conversation? Kathy said, if it is a minor age child, then it is inappropriate to publicize their identity. If adult age, have at it. And I agree with that. If it's a collegiate athlete, for instance. Let's see. Kendrick says, no special rules. High school sports have been widely published throughout the country. Tina says she voted no, only because it's a minor child. However, if this is a common and permitted practice on social media, then transgender identity should not equate to special protection and rights. One more subscriber comment. Kitty says we should operate from the position that we should protect all children. These kids are being psychologically operated on, and they all deserve love, empathy, and guidance, not to be made into a spectacle. And I couldn't agree with that more, Kitty, because I think that that's the thing, is like, I feel for these kids who are going through this for whatever reason. I feel for them, even though, they're competing against someone who's a biological woman, and I don't particularly agree with that practice, but they're competing within a system that is allowing them to do it. So let's focus on the system. Let's focus on the schools. Let's focus on the athletic organizations that are allowing for it, not minor kids, in my opinion. All right, some other questions and comments from the live stream today. Let's see. On the trans runner, Matt Gilbert says, is he over 18? If so, fair game. I do not believe that they're over 18. Diana Manning says, he may be a minor, but frankly, he is taking advantage of a situation at the expense of girls. He should learn that this isn't okay with everyone. I'm sure he's very aware that it's not okay with everyone. Let me see here on what's happening in Blaine. I can't wait to find out what everybody else's power of privilege score is. Andy says, Brandi, can you please post a photo of that worksheet? Yes, I will after the show today. Elise says, stop, just stop is right, Brandi. All of this privilege stuff is really out of hand. It's unbelievably out of hand. And plus, I think that we forget that parents are capable of teaching these lessons to their kids without a school giving a kid a freaking worksheet like this. Because there are a lot of parents, if you're a well-to-do parent, there's probably a lot of parents who teach their kid, like, hey, you have it really good in life. Like, we have, you're raised in an upper class family, and so always remember that you have benefited from a lot of things and use that for good. I think there are a lot of parents who are already teaching their kid that lesson, but they don't have to be like, well, you are a white collar of average size, English speaking, Christian North American with 2 heterosexual parents per family, and we're landowners, so you should know that, you have a power privilege score of 18.
But what does that what does that mean? I think that's the question that I want and have not seen answered is, okay, what are the kids supposed to do with that? Does that mean they're
supposed to feel bad?
Yes. Treat people differently? I think that, I mean, they don't verbalize that, though, because they know it all sounds very discriminatory. Right?
You're supposed to feel bad and cower and walk on eggshells.
And say you're supposed to treat this person different than this person. That's very discriminatory no matter which way it goes.
Yeah, and then if you have a low power privilege checklist, you're supposed to feel like a victim and go through your entire life thinking that the
Blaming.
system is got you down and that there's nothing you can do to improve your life. Really good stuff, Blaine. Quality education that you're giving kids. Mortified. I would be absolutely mortified if my kid came home with his spreadsheet. We'll see what the Blaine School District has to say. Okay, on Seattle City Councilwoman Kshama Sawant, Matthew Cook said of Jeremy Harris's takedown, which I love the end of it. How's that working out? I was like, that is so perfect. It's the best thing I've ever seen. Matthew Cook says, serious journalism going on. It may be an endangered species, but it's not extinct. You know, one of the first things I thought about, Nicole, when I saw that Jeremy Harris clip? I thought only a matter of time before Como fires him. You know, they fired Jonathan Cho.
That's what some listeners thought too.
Oh, sorry. Is that on here? Oh, Bryce and Cheda says, I'm sure Jeremy Harris will soon find himself out of a job because he's actually trying to do what the news outlets should be doing, holding elected officials accountable. You can come work for us, Jeremy, if that happens. We'll put you on freelance. Spencer Cole says, hate to say it, but Seattle voters put these people in here. Gotta listen to Undivided and smarten up. Yes, undividedpod.com, undividedpod.com. You know, think of how much better off the city of Seattle would be if everyone in District 3 listened to the Undivided podcast.
Imagine the world. Why stop there?
The world. We'll start with District 3, you know, we'll go out to other districts and then all of Seattle and just, you know, we'll get people to smarten up. Give common sense a comeback. Hashtag give common sense a comeback. All right, good questions and comments, and I hope you enjoy our new subscriber poll. Hey, if you want to weigh in on our subscriber poll, you're just going to have to become a subscriber. UndividedPod.com, UndividedPod.com. We'll do those one of those every single morning before the show, Monday through Thursday. Okay, we've talked about our friends at First Mark Insurance. In fact, you know who's coming to visit us at the studio after the show today? Dave Taylor. That was a question for you, Nicole. Oh. Dave Taylor
I knew the
with
answer.
First
I thought you were
Mark
letting
Insurance.
the audience guess.
They can't verbalize that guess. Dave Taylor's coming to visit us. I really look forward to catching up with him. And so we'll have some new clips from Dave coming up on the show about their offerings at First Mark Insurance. Mike and I now have all of our insurances handled by First Mark. We love it. I mean, whether we have to make a claim on our home, on our vehicles, we just call First Mark, a local company. They've been doing this for years and years and years. I don't have to call whatever big box store I have whatever insurance policy through and then wait on a phone tree for an endless period of time. No, I just call them and say, hey, I need some help. They take care of it. And I love that peace of mind. As I mentioned, Dave Taylor, he's the CEO of First Mark, and he talked about who their ideal client is.
Our client is anybody that values advice and wants to have a partner in their insurance buying decision and in helping them manage those accounts moving forward. So it can be as simple as someone that owns a car and rents an apartment to the uber wealthy that have assets all across the world that we need to insure. So we really, what's most important for us is somebody that values this partnership and wants to have us guide them through it.
Yeah, I mean, guide them through it is an understatement. They really, really take so much off your hands. Everyone needs insurance. So why would you not have it taken care of by a local company who can go out and shop the market for you and just be honest with you? I've heard from subscribers who said they took the First Mark challenge and then First Mark came back and said, actually, you chose really good insurance on your own and you don't need us. And I think that's the hallmark of an honest company. So take the First Mark challenge, firstmarkinsurance.com, firstmarkinsurance.com. You can do it virtually. It just takes a little bit of time to talk to First Mark about your insurance needs, about your current insurance. They're going to go out, they're going to shop the market for you and come back with their recommendations. Firstmarkinsurance.com. Nicole's laughing at me today. Firstmarkinsurance.com. They work for you. I'm excited to see Dave Taylor because I have to give him a big hug because when my sister was sick, he told you he had a little prayer circle going on for Miranda.
He did.
I'm going to give that man a big hug. What a sweet guy. Okay. All right. Let's get to our closing sanity check because I feel like I have finally found something that will make progressives care about struggling businesses. Let's get to it in our closing sanity check. All right, so as you guys know, drugstores in particular have been really struggling, and there's some, just rational reasons for that. Like you can buy the things that you buy at a drugstore a million other places that can be much more convenient. But we also know that drugstores like Bartell, for instance, they have been really, really hurt by the crime crisis. I mean, walk into a CVS, walk into a Bartell drug, walk into a Walgreens. The shopping experience, especially in the heart of cities, is atrocious. I mean, everything is behind plexiglass. You basically have to have a worker be your personal shopper if you want to get things there. It's like, oh, hey, come with me and let me into the case with the razors. Oh, hey, come with me, let me into the case with the Lysol. Oh, hey, come with me, let me into the case with the makeup. It's ridiculous. Who wants to shop like that? No one. And we know also that because of organized retail theft, because of the drug crisis that has proliferated on our streets, you have levels of theft that these businesses have never seen. And so is it a wonder that you have pharmacies that are uprooting from cities like Seattle? Is it a wonder that you have businesses like this that are closing down? No, this shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. These businesses have been talking about this and raising alarm bells about this for a long time. But now we have found a reason that might actually get progressives to care. And it is because the disappearance of some of these pharmacies is hurting communities of color the most. This is the article from the Washington Post, republished by the Seattle Times. Drugstore closures are leaving millions without easy access to a pharmacy. It reads, after decades of expansion, the nation's largest drugstore chains are closing hundreds of stores as they reorient their operations against rising competition, a crush of opioid lawsuits, and other forces, relegating many already vulnerable communities into pharmacy deserts. Rite Aid, which filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection last week, CVS and Walgreens have signaled plans to collectively shutter more than 1,500 stores in the past 2 years. Public health experts have already seen the fallout, noting that the first neighborhoods to lose their pharmacies are often predominantly Black, Latinx, and low income. Okay, so now that there is an equity lens, can we all start to take this seriously? And I love how the Washington Post says, they said, they're reorienting their operations against rising competition, a crush of opioid lawsuits, and other forces. Other forces being an insane crime crisis that is hurting their bottom line. These are not nonprofit entities. These are businesses. Their goal is, yes, to provide a service to the communities that they're in, but it's also to make a profit. And this whole story, which is pretty lengthy, crime is just a side note in it. It's just a footnote. Like, oh, also, record shoplifting. Record retail theft. Also, people have to shop for everything behind plexiglass, and it's really hurt the shopping experience. So it's not a surprise that the Washington Post would downplay that element of it, which we know has been a huge contributing factor. And we've talked about Target in downtown Seattle. It's insane to think that Target will continue to operate down there. It's insane. It's insane to think that if the current trajectory, the amount of thefts, the environment around that store, if that continues, that Target won't close down. They're a business. They're not, again, it's not a charity. And what happens when Target closed down? It is a food desert, because sometimes that's like one of the only grocery stores, because they do sell groceries there, in the area in downtown. And so then are Seattle politicians only going to care because then it's going to hurt lower income or people of color? I mean, if that's what you need, if there being an equity impact is what you need to care about an issue, I think that's a little insane, but by all means. So now that there's an equity impact, let's all row together in the same direction to try to help these struggling businesses, because we absolutely need them in our communities. All right, that has been it for today's episode of Undivided. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your commitment to giving common sense a comeback. We will see you back on the live show tomorrow at noon. And don't forget to support our show for just $5. It really does mean a lot to us. It helps us continue this mission and this movement to give common sense a comeback and make some much needed expansions heading into 2024, which is going to be a critical year for election coverage. So undividedpod.com, undividedpod.com.